It's been almost a month since K-pop Demon Hunters first dropped on Netflix, and now that I've spent enough time thinking about it and processing my thoughts on the movie, I figured now is a good time to talk about a character that doesn't really get as much screen time in the film, but whose very presence is one that reverberates throughout the entire story, affecting Rumi, Mira, Zoe, and in a fashion, Jinu too. Yes, people. It's time we talk about Celine and how the older generation tend to force their shame on the younger one. Now, the last video I made on K-pop Demon Hunters, I addressed how the film tackles the fundamental reason why our shame matters, as it's a core tenet that K-pop Demon Hunters pushes throughout its hour and a half runtime. However, I don't think we can talk about shame, how it holds and binds us, and at the same time becomes what frees us, should we choose to embrace it, without talking about the character of Celine. Celine is someone we only get to see about 5 times throughout the entire film. The first is when she's with the rest of the Sunlight Sisters as the performing lead. The second is when she reminds the Untrix girls of their duty and how close they are to creating the Golden Unmoon. The third is after Rumi's voice cracks while she and her friends and teammates are planning for the Golden Live show, and Rumi realizes to her horror that her patterns are spreading. And as she starts running, she flashes back to her as a child singing, "We are hunters' voices strong, slaying demons with our song. Fix the world and make it right when darkness finally meets the light." When Celine tells her that hunters kill all demons, which is why they absolutely need to make the Onmun golden to seal away all of them and save Rumi. The fourth time is after Rumi makes it back home and her friends want her to go to the bathhouse with them. She turns them down because she can't risk them seeing her patterns, and when she wonders if maybe they might understand, Celine quickly shuts her down, telling her that they won't, because nothing can change until Rumi's patterns are gone. And finally, the last time we see Celine in the movies after Rumi's patterns have all flared up, and it was revealed to Mira and Zoe. She comes back to meet Celine, who is shocked at the transformation. And when Rumi tells her that there is no hiding it or denying it, who she is out for everyone to see, she begs Celine to kill her. And Celine can't. She tells her that after Rumi's mother passed, she promised to protect what was left of her friend. She said everything she was taught told her that Rumi was wrong, but she made a promise, and so she did her best to accept and help Rumi. To which Rumi is furious that Celine's acceptance meant making Rumi hide and cover up. Celine insists that they can still fix things, that Rumi should go back to covering things up and hiding, that she should lie to Mira and Zoe, that it was all an illusion, and Rumi demands that Celine should look at her, asking her why she can't love her, all of her. She sends out bursts of powers that has Celine terrified, saying that that is why they have to hide away their faults and fears, which must never be seen, as it's the only way to protect the Unmoon. To which Rumi insists that if that is what it takes to protect the Unmoon, maybe it is time it is destroyed after all, and Celine is left shattered and sobbing and alone. And I don't know about you, but that scene in particular gutted me. It left me reeling because it says a lot about generational trauma, especially the ones passed on to us by those older than us. Whereby the eyes with which we are looked at and weighed and judged is once clouded by their own mistakes, their own fears, their own shames, which they in turn pass on to us. I don't think anyone who watched the film would doubt that Celine loved Rumi. She's been her de facto mother ever since Rumi's biological mother passed on whilst Rumi was a kid. The subtle imagery in them singing and harmonizing together, the creed to which they are bound, while Celine braids Rumi's hair, is meant to show us that everything that Rumi learned about slaying demons, she learned at the feet of Celine. Everything she learned about who she is, how she's to carry herself, the parts of her that she's meant to hide, all of it she learned at the feet of Celine. Celine is representative of so many elders within our families and communities, the ones who love us, within whose arms we find safety and comfort, and yet in the next breath, it's a cage, one that holds their own pain, their faults, and their flaws in equal measure alongside the love. And we find ourselves burdened by them, holding on to what isn't ours to bear. With Celine's characterization, we're meant to see how mistakes from past generations trickle down onto much younger people for whom the burden isn't meant to be theirs to bear. Rumi's mother falling in love with and bearing a child for a demon isn't Rumi's fault. And yet, as I rewatch the film, and I've done so many times at this point because it's amazing, plus I love the music. But as I was saying, as I've rewatched the film, I found myself asking, is it possible that a part of Celine hasn't found it in herself to forgive her sister and friend? Like, clearly, all three of them were the Sunlight Sisters. They bore the responsibility of using their voices and their powers and abilities to drive away demons and protect humanity from the claws of Guima. And yet, her friend and sister had an affair with a demon. And then, to make matters worse, she dies shortly afterwards. There's no time for them to fully reconcile. Every time I rewatch the film, as much as I want Rumi and Mira and Zoe, my precious girls, to all go to therapy, because bearing the weight of all those expectations whilst hating who you are fundamentally is such a big burden, I always think that the person who absolutely needs to go and sit in that chair and talk to someone about everything going on in her head has to be Celine. Because here she is, hating her friend and fellow Sunlight sister for falling in love with a demon and starting a family with him, but then her friend ends up dying and she promises her to protect what's left of her because she still loves her, unaware that what is left is a half-human, half-demon baby. Like I said earlier, I don't think anyone who's watching or listening to me right now can make the argument that Celine doesn't love Rumi. She does. But her love comes with the conditions of what she hopes Rumi is, and that is unfair to Rumi, who's had to bear that expectation and burden. Not just of being the last in the line of hunters who get to make the golden honeymoon and sail of Guima forever, but also hiding her heritage from her friends and sisters because Celine doesn't think they can handle it. And that's the sad thing about it. They could. The film clearly shows that they do. And before anybody says, but Noria, they initially walked away, Celine was right and Rumi's fears were confirmed, I would like to point out that, yeah, they were shocked to learn that Rumi has patterns, but their anger was more because of the fact that Rumi never told them the truth. They were upset that she kept something that big hidden away from them, showing that as much as Zoe and Mira trust her completely, they realized that Rumi didn't trust them the same way. And the person who was responsible for that rift is Celine, because whilst Mira and Zoe are able to accept Rumi, patterns and all, and are perfectly fine with what that means, because she's still their Rumi, Celine never could. Celine, who was Rumi's mother's friend, could never accept that her friend and sister loved a demon, that she chose a demon, and that because of that choice, Rumi, who was so much like her mother that it hurts, now bears that demon blood as well. And because she was raised within a time when hunters' laws were pretty black and white, like they sing, slaying demons is our song, the only way her brain is able to process being able to love and care for Rumi is if Rumi keeps the demon part hidden away until they can remove it completely, after which Rumi would be perfect and can be loved perfectly by her. When I say that Celine as a character fascinates and breaks me, it's because I see her in so many elders within my community that I know. The ones who are quick to blame young boys and girls for things that happen to them, who urge us to keep things quiet and bury that shame, to keep it hidden away with the hope that if we hide it, then it wouldn't be true. They find their safety within the status quo, and that is what guides a lot of their decisions and choices, even when it hurts the very people that they claim to love, that they love. And at the same time, because they cannot conceive of a path where all of that secret, all of that shame can be won openly, they further alienate us and use their own standards to judge those younger than them. Celine believes that because she cannot truly accept Rumi, because Rumi's half demon, half human heritage is one that is the very antithesis of their calling, she believes then that Mira and Zoe would react the same way. She doesn't want Rumi to have to face the revulsion of her friends turning away from her, unaware that she is the one who is turning away from Rumi with revulsion. There's so much power in that scene when Rumi comes to her. Patterns rapidly spread all over her body. Even her eyes have changed as she demands of her, asks her why she cannot love her, all of her. And that just breaks me. Because I have been there. I can't speak for everyone watching or listening right now, but I'm sure some of you might have been there too. That desperation to have those within whom we found safety as children to look at us, to look at the scars and the shame we bear and just listen and accept us without judgment. And your heart breaks just a little when you realize that they might never do that. Not because they don't love us, but because they don't love us enough to be able to admit that their love did come with pain and that pain was never one that we were meant to bear. I think it says a lot that Rumi walks away from Celine at the end of the film, leaving behind the judgment and everything that Celine stands for, and walks to go save the fans and her friends who, when her voice breaks through the sorcery that was keeping them bound and hypnotized, join her and with the power of their combined voices, defeat Guima, save everyone, recreate the Unmoon, and end up relaxing at the Ginger Bang. Finally. Something that Rumi's wanted to do forever with her friends, and Celine had been the one to keep her back. And when she gets to relax, she finds comfort and also the fantastic experience that her friends had promised her. If we ever get Kpop Demon Hunters Part 2, there is a chance that the film will bring Celine back. If only so that she can finally realize and admit to the pain she's unwittingly caused Rumi all this time so that they can heal. But even if they don't bring her back, Rumi's got her friends. And her friends have got her back. This younger generation who get to see that Rumi is half human, half demon, but they don't care. Because she's still their Rumi and they love her. And honestly, that just makes me so damn happy. Of course, these are just my thoughts. I would, as always, love to hear yours. Please hit the like button. If you've watched this far and haven't done so yet, share this video if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. And until tomorrow's video, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.